President Biden made the case Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
I now recognize from Oklahoma, Mr. Burkeen, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think all of us know that we're experiencing a crisis at our southern border. I think to pretend or to look at this and not just see the common sense reality is, as New York City Mayor said, you know, our compassion in this nation is limitless, but our resources are not. And we're running $2 trillion deficits. And I'm astounded that the answer from some is they believe, well, let's just give New York City and these high population centers more money. From where? From where?
Why are you laughing? You do not laugh, you do not applaud, until the magician produces a rabbit from a hat, like that. Hello.
Because the entire discretionary budget right now for the federal government is $1.7 trillion. If you look at last year, $1.7 trillion was our entire 12 appropriation bill number. What was our deficit last year? $1.7 trillion. 100% of everything that we're spending money on, absent the mandatory side of Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid and food stamps, on the mandatory side, 100% of everything we talk about up here, let's give them more money, is borrowed money from our kids and our grandkids. And really what we're saying is we're going to give you something that's going to come from our children.
Generation disaster, coming of age post 9/11. Who can blame them for being pissed off?
One of the quotes that I used was someone saying, I feel like our generation has been handed a bill for a party we didn't get to attend. So this is really one of the main sources of anger at older generations, at boomers in particular.
The housing market is tough for pretty much everyone right now, but especially for one generation. We're talking about millennials. The Business Insider headline says it all. Millennials are getting priced out of cities, and researchers don't necessarily think the trend will change.
The reason a lot of young people are not doing nearly as well as their parents at this stage is that they're paying huge amounts, much more than their parents ever paid as a proportion of their paychecks, for education, higher education, or student debt, housing, for rent, healthcare, even transportation. All of these costs have increased faster than inflation. And at the same time, jobs are not paying that much more. We know that 1 in 10 college graduates are underemployed, and 1 out of 20 are unemployed.
Okay, so really what we're saying is we're going to give you something that's going to come from our children. We're going to lower their standard of living. Mr. Blakeman, let me ask you a question, because I'm going off my notes here, because I'm astounded. Can illegal immigrants in New York vote?
In New York City, I believe they passed a law. Luckily, we don't have that law in Nassau County. But in the city council and mayoral races, I believe illegal aliens recently have been given the right to vote.
Let me follow up with that. So if you are of the persuasion we need more of them, and they're aligned with your politics, let's say on the Democrat side, is it to your benefit if you live in those areas where illegals are casting their vote for you? Politically, is it to your benefit to have these ideologies of just allow more to come in regardless of the cost?
The question we have to answer is, who are we? A sacred cause. That was the phrase he used, a sacred cause.
And only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
But do you see that there are some, we'll say, Democrats that would want this type policy because it helps them stay in office, because they have illegals that vote for them?
Biden accusing Trump of using violence to cling to power.
Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one.
More than a half dozen civil and criminal cases on his plate. Let's sort out what Donald Trump faces in each state. Civil case number 1, the New York Attorney General's case, now headed to what's expected to be a lengthy trial. Civil case number 2, also out of New York, this one filed by columnist E. Jean Carroll. Here, a jury found Trump committed sexual abuse in 1996 and later defamed Carroll after she went public with her story. They did not find him liable for rape, but ordered him to pay $5 million total in damages. September, Carroll filed another civil case against Trump for similar comments he made in 2019. He has denied those claims as well. There's also criminal case number 1 out of Manhattan for allegedly falsifying business records to conceal another crime.
There were no facts in there. I mean, normally in an indictment you have alleged facts.
Then there's Florida, the documents case. Among the criminal charges, conspiring to obstruct justice. It was federal prosecutors this time with a hefty, detailed filing alleging the former president hoarded classified documents containing national military and nuclear secrets, shared them with friends who had no security clearance, then conspired to hide and conceal some of them from a federal grand jury. The former president again denied the charges and pleaded not guilty.
The baseless indictment of me by the Biden administration's weaponized Department of Injustice will go down as among the most horrific abuses of power.
Criminal indictment number 3 came out of Washington, D.C. It's been described as the January 6th case, but it's really about the entire period after the 2020 election. The criminal charges here include conspiracy to defraud the United States. Special counsel Jack Smith wrote in a scathing indictment, the purpose of the conspiracy was to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election by using knowingly false claims of election fraud. He went on with great detail to describe how the former president deliberately disregarded the truth, was determined to stay in power, and developed criminal plans to defeat the federal government.
It was part of a contract from a nonprofit organization that basically part of the stipulation was that those living in these migrant shelters were given voter registration forms, had to register. You know, there's been, I think,
it would be illegal to actually
absolutely illegal, and some individuals on the other side have been saying, well, it was part of a boilerplate, it was a mistake on this migrant crisis.
Do you need more Democrats in New York City? Because I thought that was okay.
I don't think so.
I thought they were good with the Democrats.
I think they have the number that they need.
Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise in support of Chairman Comer's resolution. The radical D.C. City Council is literally putting the integrity of our election system at risk. They've passed a bill to allow illegal immigrants, Chinese, Russian agents, foreign exchange students, and quite literally anyone else who finds themselves on the streets of D.C. in our nation's capital for longer than 30 days, the ability to vote in elections. This should not be a partisan issue, and you don't have to be a Republican to understand why this is wrong. Voting is a sacred right. Regardless of what was just said, voting is a sacred right. This ridiculous measure disenfranchises millions of legal American citizens and opens up our election system to a host of security issues. In fact, the mayor of D.C. didn't even sign this.
Put himself in power.
And the 4th criminal indictment came out of Georgia. Prosecutors said the grand jury recommended charges against 19 defendants, including former President Trump. He was hit with 13 felony counts, including racketeering and a half dozen conspiracy charges related to the 2020 election. Trump pleaded not guilty, denied wrongdoing, and called this investigation as well a political witch hunt. The timeline on these cases remains uncertain, but one thing we know for sure, the Constitution does not prohibit an indicted candidate from running for office, nor even a convicted one. Noah Pransky, NBC News.
It's always to the benefit of Americans and to America, whether it's a local race, a state race, or a federal race, that you be a United States citizen.
Yeah.
You actually be a citizen and you take the oath that you pledge to defend and support the Constitution of the United States.
But do you see that there are some, we'll say, Democrats that would want this type policy because it helps them stay in office because they have illegals that vote for them?
He pleaded not guilty.
It definitely changes the voting pool in favor of those who would let anybody in.
Let me follow up with this, just because I want people in New York, for the characteristics that you all are seeing. We know the numbers tell us it's costing the state of New York $10 billion a year right now. It's costing approximately $6 billion a year, Eric Adams said, the mayor of New York City, just the cost of New York City, $10 billion to the state, and it's costing New Jersey $5 billion a year. So the state annually, the state of New York's costing them 10, New Jersey is costing them 5. Do the simple math, it's $15 billion. Under the Trump administration, by the way, which we had in 2017, a 45-year low of illegal immigration. 45-year low in 2017 of illegal immigration. No change of laws, just leadership. Now we have historic highs that we've never seen in this country. The $15 billion that the state of New York and New Jersey have spent, that built 400-mile of border wall or systems under the Trump administration, that same amount of dollars. So here we're playing defense on an annual basis, the cost of the taxpayer in New York and New Jersey. And there's some common sense glaring abilities to secure our southern border that are a better spend of our taxpayer resources. The police department. Is it about a 4% cut to New York, 4 to 10, and you all are expecting anywhere from 4 to a 10% cut to your police department because of the cost that's going to be sent your way?
Arrest after this video shows a group of men assaulting officers in Times Square. According to police, officers tried to break up a disorderly group on West 42nd Street. When police tried to take the person dressed in yellow into custody, that's when things took a turn and the group began attacking the officers. Several people repeatedly punched and kicked the officers in the head and body. Police initially arrested 4 people and then a 5th person on Monday. According to the New York Post, those who were arrested and charged are migrants who were then released without bail. A quick search shows that at least one of the individuals who was arrested lives at a homeless shelter in Brooklyn and another at a migrant shelter in College Point, Queens.
Is that the expected cost of?
% cuts across the board in the first round. The mayor is expecting to implement a second round. He said the first responders will be immune in the second round, but he has not committed to any further, third or fourth round because he believes he's going to continue to have cuts, another 5%.
So I'm reading right here, and it says New York Mayor Adams is expecting these cuts may be up to 15%, may be as much as 15%.
3 rounds. We just got the first round and the second round.
So I'm going to end with this. How many people are you taking off emergency first responders, police, and whoever wants to answer this question, my time is limited. Are we better prepared if a security threat comes to New York City because of these decisions, or less prepared? Whoever wants to answer that question.
Well, we are less prepared because we don't know who's coming to this country, and they haven't been vetted, and there's a lot of people that have come into this country that have nefarious intent. And I believe that we need a program where we know who's coming into this country, and we vet them before they come in, and that if someone wants asylum and they're entitled to it, they should get it, but they need to have a hearing and they need to be properly vetted. Otherwise, with open borders, it creates a terrible public safety crisis.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
Biden accusing Trump of using violence to cling to power.
Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one. Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past, not the future. We all know who Donald Trump is. The question we have to answer is, who are we?
Bullies. We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Who are we? Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one.
The president reminded Americans what Trump told that crowd on January 6th.
He told the crowd to fight like hell.
Yes, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
He told the crowd to fight like hell.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.
He told the crowd to fight like hell.
One eternity later.
We cannot be complacent. We got to go out, right? We got to go out. We got to go out, and we got to fight like hell, and we got to win the House, and we got to win the Senate. And I think we're going to do great in the Senate, and I think we're going to do great in the House, because the economy is so good. The economy is so good. And because if you look at us all around the world, we're respected again. We're not pushovers anymore.
He told the crowd to fight like hell. Today, we're here to answer the most important of questions. Is democracy still America's sacred cause?